Welcome, guys. This is A&J Trades. I'm Jason.
And I'm Ari. Today we're going to be watching part 2 of Trey'sTrades interview with Adam Aron, the CEO of the Silverback Apes. So let's get into the video.
Everybody, to all the apes out there, welcome back to Trey'sTrades, coming out here again to give you guys the second interview for Adam Aron. Adam, it's a pleasure to have you here back again to speak with me and the rest of the apes who are here. Join together for the culture of AMC stock. Hope you're having yourself a good evening.
Hello, Trey. Hello to all your subscribers who are watching this live or who might watch later on. It's really an honor and a privilege for me to be with you and to be with the people who follow you so closely.
I appreciate that immensely. So we're not going to waste too much of your time. We're just going to dig right into these questions. So we're going to throw some hardballs here right off the bat. I want to talk about the 8.5 million shares that were sold to Mudrick. So there's some speculation coming from the ape community, the retail investors out there, that the sale that took place with Mudrick was, it's a little bit shady, not in terms of what AMC did, but how they sold it and the way they got out of the stock. So they sold it immediately the next week on Monday, and then followed that up with a statement with, being AMC is overvalued.
Yeah,
Do you have
that was
anything
dirty.
to speak on about
Even
that?
if you're going to
Because
do it, there's no
a
reason to
fear,
comment
uncertainty,
on
and
it.
doubt in terms of
Trashy.
the way that whole transaction took place.
Sure, I've got a lot to say about
let's go.
that. And
Let's hear it.
the way you phrased the question, Trey, is the way some of the people in your community, our community, are talking, but it's not actually accurate. So, and there are some nuances here. So the first thing is that Mudrick Capital has been incredibly helpful to AMC. I want to remind you that back in December, when no one would give AMC a dime, Mudrick Capital took a big risk and lent us $100 million, $100 million. And that was the catalyst for our continued capital raising between mid-December and late January that brought in $1.2 billion. And I don't think we would have raised the $1.2 billion if Mudrick hadn't given us.
That's fine. I have no problem with you selling the stock to them. I have a problem with their comment.
And I don't know that AMC would have been able to avoid bankruptcy court had we not raised that $1.2 billion back then. So let's start at the beginning that Mudrick's been a very good actor here, a very good actor.
Until the comment, I agree.
I don't know exactly what they own today, but I know that they have, I believe, I don't know for sure, but I believe they have a couple of $100 million of AMC debt. And they've held this debt for quite some time.
Well, they could have $300 million more dollars if they would have held on another day.
For AMC to thrive and prosper.
Karma.
That's kind of the second thought. The third thought, I can confirm that we sold Mudrick 8.5 million shares. And I can confirm that we did it at a price of $27.12 a share, and that it brought in $239 million in cash. What they did with their
one more day and sold it at
is their business, not our business.
4 times the price.
Sold shares to them in good faith.
Well, not 3 times the price.
Do what any shareholder can do. They can hold them, they can sell them. That's their decision, not ours. So I can't confirm exactly what they did. I can't confirm the timing of what they did. I do know that some of the estimates out there about how much money they might have made in the buying shares and selling shares are inaccurate reports. And I also know for a fact that they never made any public comment that they thought AMC was overvalued. So what you got were those were anonymous sources to people in the media.
Like.
I mean, you should have said that way sooner, because that's the bad actor part.
To Mudrick, but you'll never find a statement that Mudrick made.
All right, so if that's true, then I agree. They're allowed to sell shares. The problem is if they call the shares overvalued and trash the share after making $300 million on your stock.
Right. $9 million of cash at what was then a sky-high price for the shares, $27.12 a share. Now, we all know that since that occurred, the share price is higher still. And so I would take that all of that. What Mudrick did, that was all very good for AMC as a company. It was very good for AMC shareholders. Next question.
All right. I like the piece of that you said there wasn't any hard proof stating that they actually made that statement. So I think that's a good thing to get out there, that there wasn't any hard documentation. But the next question that I've got for you is regarding the 11.5 million shares that were sold today. Now, this is just raising concerns for a lot of the investors. Now, there was the first interview here. We talked about how AMC had 46,000 shares total remaining after they issued those 43 million shares offering into the market and raised a great sum of cash. So there's a sentiment right now passing along with the retail investor group, the apes, that they feel a little bit betrayed. They feel like the management was hiding something that was behind closed doors and we just didn't get to see it. Now, there's probably some sort of explanation for this, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. But where did these shares come from for this 11.5 million shares that you sold into the market for Mudrick Capital for those 8.5 million shares? And are there any shares remaining that we should?
From my understanding, it's the 43 million shares that they have that are already approved for sale. But let's see.
Sure thing.
I'm curious to know how many they have left to sell. Though.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons.
How much could they further dilute us?
With you today is to make sure that we get the straight scoop out in front of all of the people who are shareholders of our company. Back when we said that we had 43 million shares available for sale, you will also recall that was before the May 4 shareholder meeting. That was postponed.
You pulled the 500 off the table.
One of the items that was up for shareholder vote at the May 4 meeting was to put 20 million AMC shares into what's called the Management Equity Incentive Plan. Those shares would be essentially given to the management of the company. Given, I might add, for free to the management of the company.
Right.
The management team of the company cares so much about the company that we decided that rather than us taking those 20 million shares and those 20 million shares working for the benefit of officers of AMC, that we ought to use those shares a different way.
No.
We ought to use those shares to strengthen the company, the company that all of
they sold the 20 million shares of the management company.
And so if you look at a press release that we put out just about an hour ago with the new proxy for the new July 29 shareholder meeting, you will see that there are 0 shares being allocated to the management of the company. Those 20 million shares that were going to go into my pocket and the pockets of other managers and executives of the company, we decided instead that they should be used for the company's benefit, not for our personal benefit. So though, if you look at the proxy that went out a few minutes ago, we are not making any request of the shareholders to put any shares in the Management Equity Incentive Plan.
Okay.
That essentially, those 20 million shares that were going to go to us personally.
So you still diluted the stock, but how many of the 43 million are still available? That's what we need to know.
We sold those 20 million shares, 8.5 million earlier over the last week.
Oh, it's 20 total.
11.5 million today. And between those two transactions,
11.5 and 8.5.
we raised over $800 million of cash, not to line my pocket.
Sure, to clear debt.
For anybody who works at AMC, but to put that money in the treasury of AMC, to strengthen AMC, let AMC do more good things, to grow our company. That's where the 20 million shares came from.
I mean, I didn't have a problem with them selling shares. Because, they have a lot of debt and they need to clear it. It only strengthens the stock.
And that makes AMC a much stronger company.
But
much easier for us
how many
to
of the 43 million
forward.
shares are still available?
And I think that's in the best interest of our
Come on,
shareholders.
Trey.
There's another point I'd like to make. And it's a very important point because it goes to this whole issue of dilution. I believe amongst some AMC shareholders, there is a fear, you use the phrase FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
Right.
There's a fear that just the mere fact of issuing shares is a bad thing for a company. There's another very strongly held view, and it's the view that I hold, and that many other AMC shareholders have, including many of your apes. And that is, let's look at the facts. Back in December and January.
I mean, he's going to make the argument they're clearing their debt, which is a good argument. but we only care because the dilution hurts the squeeze in the short term. Right. None of us care about the long term of the stock, unfortunately. I mean, we care. I'll buy it after the squeeze at a low price.
Yeah.
But
and we brought in, as you know,
yeah, they're not going anywhere once the squeeze is over.
Right. At the price we've currently bought, none of us care about the long-term health right now, right? I mean, I get it's his job too, but of course, dilution hurts us. Yeah. Dilution for the long-term health is good because they're raising money
and made the company a stronger company. The share price when that was
done,
we
have a slight difference in
was between $3
in mission at the current moment,
$7 a share. Now let's fast forward.
Or convergence of the minds.
We put out some more shares that we announced on May 13th. And we announced with a sale of 43 million shares, which we raised at an average price of which we sold at an average price of $9.98.
Yeah.
That we brought in.
Let me get some.
Can I buy that dip?
$28 million. In our view, yes, we were aware we were diluting the share count, but in our view, that $428 million of cash greatly strengthened AMC and made AMC a much stronger company. And I don't need to ask you what happened to our share price between May 13 and now.
Let's go.
But what I do know is when we raised $428 million at $9.90, I think it's $9.94 a share actually, at $9.94 a share, we strengthened AMC. Now, sure enough, we announced on Tuesday we brought in another $239 million, and we announced today that we brought in another $587 million.
It's clear a ton of that.
We did this when the trading volumes of AMC stock were sky high.
This is crucial.
In normal weeks, AMC trades about $500 million shares.
Now we're doing like 600 mil a day.
If we just look at what we did this
doesn't
week,
count.
I would say that 8.5 million shares, 11 million shares
That's right.
in a week when
Let's go.
we're trading 500 million shares normally. It's just hard to see how that should be alarming. It's such a small amount of shares compared to what's trading.
Right.
But that's against a normal week. The trading has not been normal of late. We've been trading 500 million shares a day.
Look at Trey's loving it.
So
he wants to be screaming about cooking with Crisco.
These are very small numbers in comparison to what's actually trading. And it's our view that that we're strengthening the company and we're not hurting the company. Now, you asked me a question, how many shares do we have left?
This is what I need to know.
And we made a public comment to that point this afternoon in a press release.
Yes. Yo, if you're an ape, he just said 100K. This is Adam Aron telling you we're going to 100K. Adam Aron
look at Trey's face.
I know. Adam Aron just said mission to moon.
Over the last
moon.
So they're out of shares. No more dilution. He dropped 20. He dropped 43. They're out.
Comfort in the fact
there's no more dilution.
That there are no more shares coming, unless the shareholders approve us doing something else.
Salute our silverback.
They can take comfort in that. I would actually tell you, if I were a shareholder, I would be more concerned that we don't have shares available to us, because I think shares.
Yes,
are
long term, you're right. Short
tool
term, I want this to squeeze.
To do good things for a company. Look at the $1.6 billion of cash that we brought into AMC.
Again, long term, excellent. Happy for you.
Shares.
I want to save the movie theaters. I'm very happy. Short term, I want Citadel and Melvin Capital to declare bankruptcy, and your dilution is hurting me.
And right now, we don't have that.
Time out. Was that a man wearing pants there?
I was just thinking the same thing. Is he not wearing pants?
Because if he wasn't, legendary.
Awesome.
Whatever, we're all doing it, working from home. Amazing.
That's 9 years to use.
Hey, he's here for a good time, not a long time.
I want to make sure I don't steamroll you, and I want to make
have to
sure
watch
you
that
ask
back
me
later.
questions
See if he's wearing pants or not.
But I want to make sure.
Maybe that's Trey's next question.
That,
are you wearing pants?
we can't do any more shares unless the shareholders approve.
Like work on the top,
And
party on the
that's
bottom.
just it. I mean, those are straight facts.
Like a mullet for your
And
clothes.
I'm going to make the case probably later in this call in response to one of your questions that the shareholders should authorize more shares because this could be a very valuable tool.
Well, he said the end of July is the meeting, July 29th.
Company going forward, but let's save that for the next question.
All right, before we move on to the next question,
Are you wearing
circle
pants?
back to one clarification point because I thought it was pretty interesting. It was the piece where you were saying that the equity incentive plan, right, for the management. So those 20 million shares, whether or not you decided to sell them, into the market for the company or to give them to the management, either way, those 20 million shares would have been, essentially added to the overall shares outstanding.
That's correct.
All right, that's good to know.
I was added.
But instead, they're not going.
I mean, it was still dilutionary, but
100 people in the company.
It's fine, and they're out now.
They were used. The
fact that they're out is fantastic.
And the CEO just said,
I mean, I'm telling you, the stock will rebound from
we
this.
just put in the bank.
Not financial advice. Don't sue me. Smooth brain apes.
Obviously, a great way to use those shares if they're going to be used either way, for the benefit of everybody. So that's a good, great clarification point, and I'm glad that you doubled down on that. So we can move into the next question here really quick. I want to talk about that 25 million share vote. Now, it was obviously stated by AMC, like you just kind of alluded to here today in a press release, that you're requesting a 25 million share authorization for, I'm assuming it would be 2022. So I guess the big clarification points that I have is, if this is approved, will a single one of these shares be used in 2021?
He already made an SEC filing,
but he can't. What sort of plans would you have for these 25 million shares, so that we would want to vote yes on this authorization?
Well, let's start with they absolutely cannot be used in calendar year 2021. Right. That's just, again, that's right. We wrote that into the plan, so no one even has to take my word for it.
It's binding. Right. It's legally binding.
Yep.
Right.
Second, you said that we would use those shares in 2022.
That's true. He doesn't have to.
What we would
hang on to them until,
is we wouldn't use those shares before 2022. But that doesn't mean we will use all those shares in 2022. We could, but that doesn't mean we will. The last time the shareholders authorized shares for this company was 9 years ago.
43 million.
It took us 9 years to use up all those shares. And looking ahead, if the shareholders approve this new 25 million share tranche, theoretically we could use them quickly in 2022, or we could use them spread out over a long period of time. We would only use them if there are really good opportunities for AMC. So let's talk about what some of those opportunities might be. God forbid this COVID virus comes back and puts us all on our keisters. I want to say all, I don't mean AMC, I mean like the country and the world.
Yeah, tracking.
If disaster comes back, we'll all be glad that we had this authorization sitting out there to be used. Hopefully that's not the case. So why don't we kind of take that one off the table, because it sounds such bad karma to think COVID-19 would come back, or there'd be the invention of COVID-20 or God only knows what. But let's look at some of the other good things we could do. Not just have it as rainy day money to prevent a catastrophe. We could use this cash that we might raise in 2022 and beyond. We might use some of the cash we already raised this week to pay down some of our expensive debt and to deleverage the company. That would be very good for AMC. It would especially be good if we could buy some of that debt back at a discount and actually make a profit in buying back some of the debt. That's an example. Here's another example. We owe landlords over $400 million in cash from rent that we incurred in 2020 that they very graciously said, don't pay us now, pay us later. But we owe that money. Well, what if we can go to some of those landlords and say, yeah, we're supposed to pay you back over 2 years or 3 years or 5 years or 10 years. But if you'd let us pay you less, we'll pay you now because we've got cash. Well, again, we owe them this money. These are binding legal contracts. So if we can use shares to generate cash to take future obligations and pay them off at a discount, that would be a wonderful thing for AMC as a company and for our shareholders. There are more, and there are many more. And when you see the proxy that's coming out, this time we actually printed in the proxy some of the things that we might be able to use shares for. But I'll give you another one, and we were quite explicit about this in the press release we put out the other day. We believe that there's merger and acquisition opportunity.
Yeah, they've been talking about buying
AMC.
Regal theaters
AMC,
or some of the other theaters.
Is clearly making it through this pandemic.
Another theater chain.
Others of our competitors did not. There are movie theater circuits out there that did go to movie theater business. There are movie theater circuits that are faltering, that are failing.
Because they want to own
everything. There are theaters that are otherwise very powerful theaters that gross a lot of money in normal times that are now up for grabs. And we specifically mentioned theaters that were leased or owned by ArcLight,
right?
California,
mostly in Southern California, and a little bit around the country. Those theaters are now all closed. Landlords are
pretty desperate
for new tenants for those theaters. We're going to chase those theaters hard. Some of them, one of them that I can think of, was the third most visited movie theater in all of Los Angeles in the years 2017 and 2018. Wouldn't that be a great theater to add to AMC as just an example? So we can also use the $800 million we just raised and whatever we might be able to raise in 2022 and 2023 or beyond. Maybe there's another movie theater company we can buy. Maybe there's a great acquisition opportunity for us outside of pure play movie theaters that would allow us to vertically integrate and create real value for AMC shareholders. If you arm us with the tool,
of course you love that.
Tool,
if they're raising capital for mergers and acquisitions, sure, that could fire up the stock even further, right? It's like GameStop pivoting into digital assets.
If we're not armed with this tool, then you're tying our hands behind our back, and you'll make it just that much harder for us to land some of these attractive
I'm still wondering if he's wearing pants.
Look, again, Adam Aron, I have no problem with you having shares to dilute with. I have a problem with you doing it during the short squeeze.
Expressed by our shareholders about the size of the equity ask. Remember, we asked for 500 million shares.
Right.
And the timing. There was no discussion of the timing issue. And some out there thought, oh my goodness, they're going to put 500 million shares into the market tomorrow.
That's a lot of shares that can short
scare a few
us.
Yeah.
And we were trying to say, no. The last time the company authorized 100 million shares, it lasted for almost a decade. So we scrapped that meeting specifically because
I understand the movement.
We, our management team, we were listening.
We want his shares to go to 500 too.
And we were changing our plans so as to mesh our thinking with the thinking of our company's owners, which is our shareholder base. And so this time around, May 4 was only a few weeks ago, right?
Yeah, I
we
suppose
went out in writing and said, can't do anything with these shares now because we can't use them in 2021. That's actually a commitment I made to you on the first of our interviews.
Yeah, I remember.
With respect to all.
The truth is, he's been very positive towards the Wall Street Bets and ape community. He's been
to issue 500 million shares.
Incredibly supportive.
We asked for authority to issue 25 million shares.
It's a tough spot because there's so many SEC rules on what he can and can't say.
It's 95% less shares.
He's been as supportive as basically possible.
It's a much more measured request of the shareholders, and yet it still arms us with a very powerful tool to help us grow this business, to create value for our shareholders, which benefits all of us.
That makes sense to me. So I think the big point, you've already said it, but I just want to double down on it so we can close this question on a good note, is that even, with 2021, none of these are on the table. Not going to use a single one of these, legally binding. It's in the document, so you couldn't argue it even if you wanted to. You might not even use these shares in 2022. It would be mainly for, different opportunities to raise capital and to improve the company. You stated, the possibility of a merger or an acquisition with different movie theater chains. And I suppose I'd like you to expand a little bit on maybe some that you're able to, talk about, some of the opportunities that are presenting themselves to you, because this has been a conversation that the apes have had, more than once about the potential of, AMC either A, being acquired, or B,
now it's not going to happen.
Other companies to improve the strength of them and scare away short positions from the stock on the short term and the long term.
Market cap is
outrageous. Is there anything that you're able to speak on for that?
Sure. So think of it this way. The stronger AMC is as a company, the more people who bet against the company should be concerned. I'm disconnecting that from our share price. I'm not saying the share price on January 15 or February 15 or March 15 or June 15. Just in general, not talking about trading activity, just in general. The stronger a company is, kind of by definition, the stronger a company is. And we've raised billions of dollars over the past 10 months. And we have almost $2 billion of cash in the bank. Almost $2 billion of cash.
How does that compare to
your there you go, Trey. Get him.
The second question, I'll answer it second.
Okay, no worries.
Damn, Trey's bringing the heat today.
The question is, what do we do with that cash? How do we deploy it so as to make AMC even stronger still? And I do believe that there's M&A possibility for AMC. M&A being, of course, merger and acquisition. We already said publicly there are 17 ArcLight and Pacific theaters that will not reopen.
Yeah.
Some of them are some of the strongest theaters in the United States, highest grossing theaters in the United States. Would love to get some of those. I will tell you that because AMC is strong again, we've had various theater landlords around the country approach us about taking over other attractive theaters, not ArcLight Pacific theaters, but other theaters operated by other chains whose financial strength or the ingenuity of their management team is not as well respected by those landlords as they now respect AMC. And so I think there's an opportunity to pick up some highly attractive theaters there.
Love to hear
There are other entire movie theater companies who have posited to us that they would like us to buy them outright. And the answer to all these things is always the same answer. Number one, do we have the resources
cash? Yes.
to consummate such moves? And number two, is it smart for us to consummate those moves? And if we can buy things at a very attractive price, or we can lease some theaters on attractive lease terms, then it's smart to proceed. And if somebody wants us to pay an arm and a leg or overpay or do something foolish, we're not going to do that.
Right.
Remember this. I am an AMC shareholder. I've run AMC now for 5.5 years. Other than when I gifted some shares to my 2 adult sons, I have not sold one AMC share.
Look at this.
In 5.5 years.
Adam Aron teaching you how to hodl.
And I have no current intention.
What a beast. Look at those diamond hands.
AMC shares at the moment. I'm a believer. I believe
Look
that
at
we
Trey,
can
loving
grow
it.
our company, strengthen
It's like
our
gotta be
company,
professional right now.
build our company. And that's what our entire management team is focused on. And again, disconnecting this from the share price of the moment, over the long term, my job is to build a stronger AMC.
Wow.
And that's what I'm committed to.
Diamond nuts.
Perfect. You said you kind of circled back to this, so I think this would be a good point to touch back on, is just the liabilities versus current cash on hand. How is that situation looking after you've raised so much capital?
So we have in the neighborhood of just under $6 billion of debt. It's 5 point something. Those people who like to badmouth AMC, and you're familiar with them. You've
right, absolutely.
Arguing about them for months now.
Absolutely.
They pointed that as if it was the end of the universe. Well, they're kind of forgetting to mention that we have $2 billion of cash.
And you've been
So
essentially
right
closed for a year.
That lowers what we call the net debt to closer to $4 billion from $6 billion. And we have very few maturities. Maturities means when you have to pay debt back.
Right.
Until the years 25 and
time.
26. Yeah. We have a little bit of money that we owe in 23, a little bit of money that we owe in 24. But most of the money that we have to repay is 2025 and 2026. That gives us 4 or 5 years to earn money.
Go buy some popcorn, guys.
That's a
large
long
popcorn
time.
tonight.
That's a lot of earning power for AMC.
What's coming out this weekend?
To pay down debt. Additionally,
anything good?
Companies carry a reasonable amount of debt all the time.
Quiet Place 2.
So the other thing that we can do,
go see Quiet Place 2. I mean, that was
refinance
killing the box
debt.
office.
Yep.
Go see Cruella, take the kids.
Like
large
someone's
popcorns
gonna
all
walk
around.
up with an empty wheelbarrow in
With the large soda.
2026 and say, "Here, pay me back." What is more likely is that well before 2026, we'll work with our investment banks, we'll work with our commercial banks, and we'll refinance some of this debt, stretching out the maturities from 2026 to a year way out in the future. I'm not concerned about our debt position in the least.
Perfect. That's a great way to cap that off. And honestly, that's how I felt too. I mean, the amount of money you guys are raising.
The truth is, they were at 7,
as
now
long
they're
as
at like
COVID
4.
doesn't get out of hand again.
You know, if you're
AMC's
counting the
got
$2
a bright
billion in
future. I
cash.
think the fundamental thesis of a short position is weakening every single passing day.
You were short seller. You were shorting them when they were $7 billion in debt. Now you're shorting them when they're $4 billion in debt.
Into the overall share count, right? So this is something that a lot of the apes and the retail investors were excited about. And in that recent press release that came out, it was found there was about 501 million total shares. Now it's also been found that only U.S. and Canada primarily makes up that overall share count. So there's some speculation as to how many of the actual retail investors could have been left out of that overall count. For example, we as the ape community have taken tallies of all the people who own stock all over the world, and we're leaving out little dozens and dozens and dozens of countries, which leaves an opportunity for a lot of shares to exist. Is there anything you'd like to speak on about the 501 million share outstanding count that was found here, released today, that isn't available in that statement, or that you just like clarification points on?
Sure. And just for the record, I'm happy to answer
here we
answer it as robustly as I know how. Some of the things that you said in there were not correct, and in my answer, I'll correct the record.
He's got to be careful what he says.
We announced today. Before I say we announced today, we fulfilled a commitment. We've told people publicly that we were going to announce a share count as of June 2. Well, today's June 3, and we put out the share count as of June 2. That was yesterday. It's actually 501, I think, 0.8 million. So it's a little bit more than 501.
Gotcha, yeah, my bad.
Between 501 and 502. Let's start there.
All right.
The international share count is included in that number of 501 whatever it was, 7 or 8, whatever it was, between 501 and 502. Our understanding is the international shares, meaning of the 501 million shares, about 27 million of those were held outside the United States. And it's like more than dozens and dozens of countries. It's all around the world.
Right.
You've got people who are
AMC's been
subscribing
in Germany
to your YouTube channel from a lot of countries internationally,
right.
And we got shareholders all around the world too. So the share count is, I think I said that wrong. I think it's 27 million shares are outside of the U.S. and Canada.
How many you said? 21 million?
27.
Because there are also a number of Canadian shares that are included in the 501.
He's not wearing pants, by the way.
But that 501 number does include all the shares that are outstanding.
Maybe he's wearing shorts.
And again, I think it's my understanding that the Canadians can easily vote in our normal annual meetings. I think you may be aware that some of the brokerage firms outside the United States make it difficult for international holders of our shares to vote. So if you want to know how many shares, not all of them are at risk for not voting because some international brokers allow it and facilitate it. But it's 27 million of the 501. So that's point one. Now, there's been a tremendous amount of speculation amongst your followers, amongst my shareholders. And in most cases, they're the same people. That there must be something more than that, because they see these enormous volumes of stock that are trading every day, and they're saying, if you only have 500 million shares, like, how can you trade 700 million shares in a day? Well, there are
trade it back and forth. We get it, but it seems artificial.
One is, a lot in your community really dislike some of the practices that have developed on Wall Street over the last 5, 10, 20 years.
Right.
And one of the practices that has developed is what's called machine trading. where humans are not trading stock, but machines are trading stock in enormous quantities algorithmically.
Sell, buy.
What they're doing
That's microtransactions.
is they're taking us share, and in something called high frequency trading, they're trading it, and then trading it again, and trading it again, and trading it again, and over and over and over. So an individual share might go back and forth between these machines and between machines and humans, zillions of times in a day. So that explains part of it. The other part, and it's so big we almost can't quantify it. As you know, the options market
is he gonna hit him with
has been very active
dark pool trading
about AMC.
Please say yes.
Especially over the last 6 months. Puts and calls, which can create what are called derivatives.
To delivers.
Where people are
Let's go.
puts and calls and have various strategies.
Right.
Well, what this does, a typical option contract is for 100 shares. One contract, 100 shares. And, if to buy 100 shares, you might have to put down, whatever it is, 100 times our closing price, $5,000. But you might be able to buy or sell an option contract for $2 or $5 or $50 or $80. And so what that does is allows people to create the economic benefits as if they own the stock without actually owning the stock. Or selling it, or vice versa, selling
and buying
selling
pressure.
stock. So it greatly increases the volatility of the stock because so much less cash has to be put up. And when I talk about this, yesterday in the United States of America, AMC shares represented 11% of all the options on all the public companies that exist in the United States yesterday. One company, 11% of all the options trading yesterday was in AMC shares. That's why you see such high volumes in our stock. That's why you see such, that's not the only reason, but that's a reason why you see high volume in our stock. It's why you see volatility in our stock. And that's something we're all living together. Beyond that, I guess the only other thing to say about the share count issue is somebody out there in the world of Reddit and Twitter was trying to speculate that AMC was either going to split our stock.
That's not true.
Or do a reverse split of our stock. And they were breathlessly reporting this as if they knew this to be true. Well, guess what? I can tell you that I've never given any serious thought to splitting our stock or a reverse split of our stock. That's point number one. Point number two, we have absolutely no plans to split our stock or do a reverse split of our stock. You want to hear point number three? We can't split our stock or do a reverse split of our stock without shareholder approval. So if we wanted to do that, and we don't, but if we wanted to do that, we would have to go out to the shareholders for a vote. So guess who makes that decision? Adam Aron doesn't make that decision. You, the owners of AMC, you make that decision, which is fine by me, because I think my management team and I are pretty smart people. I think we've kept AMC away from a lot of trauma over the last year. I think we've strengthened our company a lot. But you've probably figured out by now, if you look at what I'm saying publicly, if you look at my tweets, if you look at the Diane Fossey contribution, I have an enormous amount of respect for the owners of our business. I work for you.
He's doing silver. He's doing diamond hands for you.
Not me.
Let's go.
I keep on seeing all this stuff on Twitter about king this and king that. Well, it's funny and it's flattering, and it's more funny than flattering.
It's flattering.
But you know what? You know who the real king is?
Let's go.
The shareholder is king. You are fully in charge. That's why we're not asking you to authorize 500 million shares. We're authorizing you to vote for 25 million shares because we don't think you'd vote to approve 500 million shares. We think you might vote to approve 25 million shares. That's why we take what you think, we take what you have to say very carefully, and we give a lot of thought to what you guys think. And it's for a simple reason. Like, we exist in the capitalistic free market system. I went to what some people think is the best business school in the world. I hate to say that I went there over 40 years ago, but it's a long time ago.
Sure.
And with no disrespect intended for other business schools, it was the Harvard Business School. You know what they taught me in 1977 at the Harvard Business School? Professional management teams work for the owners of the business. Now, of course, we've got a responsibility to all stakeholders. So I've got to pay attention not just to shareholders. But primarily, our fiduciary duty is to shareholders. And guess what? You, Trey, you're a shareholder. The people who are watching your YouTube channel right now, I'm guessing 90%, 95%, 99% of them are AMC shareholders. We care what you think. We respect who you are. And honestly, it's a privilege for me to lead this company that you now own.
Let's go.
You know, I think it's very apparent too, and you know, the whole stock split thing. You know, right off the bat, there's only one way that you would actually know about this stock split. You know, and that's if you were watching and combing through the comments and concerns of, you know, the apes, the retail investors out there who, you know, you work for, which is, I think it shows how much you're really digging into the sentiment and the current climate of the retail investors. So I'm glad that you made that statement. That's a good thing to kind of end that question on. Now, I think there's just a last couple.
Can I just a quick comment to what you said?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Like, I'm living on Twitter right now. Reddit also, but more Twitter. And when many of you know some parts of my background, you know, a decade ago I was the CEO of the Philadelphia 76ers. I used to tweet like 10 to 15 times a day with a fan base in Philadelphia. I love doing it. It's a lot of fun. I learned a lot by reading what the fans wrote back to me. I used to get 200-300 inbound tweets a day when I was running the Sixers. Well, that was a long time ago, but I still had 21,000 Twitter followers in April. Mostly a remnant of those days. I've been pretty dormant on Twitter since I left. I mean, I'm still an owner of the Sixers, small, very small, but since I left the day-to-day operational role. Literally today, Trey, I crossed 100,000 Twitter followers. So we went from 21,000 in April to 100,000
in
June. And yeah, that's nothing compared to you. You're like way ahead of me. So,
Trey's killing the Twitter game.
And I'm tweeting almost daily now. But more important than the tweets that I write, although they're important because they're routinely being read by, you know, anywhere from 200,000 to 2 million people each time I put out a tweet. What's really more important than that is I'm reading the inbound messages that are coming to my feed, because it allows me to have my finger on the pulse of what you all are thinking. And very quietly, I haven't made a lot of noise about this, but in the last 4 weeks, I've followed about 1,000 apes. 1,000. And nobody's doing this for me. I don't have somebody like running my Twitter feed. This is what I'm doing at 10 o'clock at night when it's that or watch TV. And I'm following some people who have 100,000 followers. I'm following some people with 10,000 followers. I'm following people with 1,000 followers. I'm following people with 100 followers.
Let's go. It's like my Twitter.
But my Twitter feed now includes so much inbound information of what you're all thinking. Similarly, on a typical tweet that I put out, I'm getting in the neighborhood of 1,000 replies to that tweet. I'm reading every single one of those replies myself. Nobody's summarizing them for me. I'm reading them. And I learn so much about what you all think by reading what you have to say. Now, it's not always flattering.
Yeah,
in a world where everybody has an opinion, like not everybody's going to agree with 100% of the things I say or do, but it sure helps me be a better executive to know what the owners of my company think, and I'm learning a lot by reading my inbound flows on Twitter.
That's awesome. I think, I was interested by the comment of they're not always flattering, because to go through 1,000 messages, you've got to have some pretty thick skin to be able to, I can speak on this myself, you got to have some pretty thick skin to be able to go through everybody's opinions, because sometimes people don't agree with you, and that's, it is what it is. We don't always have to agree, but I think that just shows the dedication and the fact that you really do care about what the apes think, and we can see it in the way that this has come out, or at least I can see it in the way that this has come out with the recent press releases and the way that you've handled the questions. I got to be honest, I had some speculation. I had some concerns coming into this interview, and I think the way you're addressing these is very solid. So we'll leave those opinions to the rest of the people. Go ahead.
Can I quickly respond to your comment about a thick skin?
Yeah.
Try running a professional sports team in Philadelphia.
Yeah, sure.
That's a city
Eagles fan. Oh my God.
where they famously booed Santa Claus.
That's absolutely true.
You develop a thick skin pretty fast. But look, if somebody wants to disagree, I would prefer that they do it civilly instead of with a lot of profanity. But you know what?
That's one way of putting it.
We're in the public eye. We're big boys and girls. We can take what's thrown at us. We should be able to take what's thrown at us. And I will tell you that pick your percentage. 99%, 99.99% of what's on my Twitter feed. And I think you actually can read the replies to my tweets. I think that's
absolutely.
One thing. You can't read my DMs, which I also read, but I think you can read the replies.
The DMs, Adam Aron.
They're so heartfelt. They're so
well
well intended. Whether they agree with us or they disagree with us, and most of the time they've been agreeing with us of late. As I said, I learn from hearing what you guys think, and nobody's doing this for me. I write my tweets myself. I'm reading my inbounds myself. I'm learning a lot from it. I'll be a better executive for it.
Awesome. That's good stuff. It's a good way to wrap up that question. So I suppose, I think I already know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask anyways, because there are people out there who speculate and are interested, right? So I kind of wanted to ask about dividends, and I've done some reading a little bit, and I recognize that because of legalities, you probably can't speak on this, but if you're not able to answer, if you'd like to move on to a different question, we can absolutely do so. If you want to say something, feel free to do so. Otherwise, we can move on to the next piece.
So, yeah, one of the various other things in my job that I have to do is I have to make sure that I strictly adhere to all securities laws. And it's really not appropriate for the CEO of a public company to ever talk about dividend policy.
It gives an indication that they're going to give dividends. It raises the EPS of the stock.
I think the law requires that I not answer that question.
Definitely.
All right.
I would point out that we did pay a dividend for I think it was 7 years straight, and then we stopped paying a dividend a year or two back. And a dividend is a use of cash, and I'm glad that the cash we might have put out in dividends, looking in the rearview mirror, that we had kept in the company treasury, because that's probably the difference between us having survived as a company and having gone down in the pandemic in 2020. And there's a lot of evidence that a lot of companies pay a dividend, a lot of companies don't pay a dividend. There's a lot of evidence that companies are not hurt by not paying a dividend, making no comment about what we'll do in the future. I just know that we've now put a lot of cash in the treasury. That's our treasury, not the U.S. Treasury. And what I would like to use that cash for is to grow the company, to seize on opportunities that come before us, to create value for shareholders, to make AMC a stronger company for the long haul. And at the end of the day, that's what our shareholders who want me to do.
All right, perfect. That's honestly more of a response than I was expecting, so I appreciate the clarifications, Adam. It does mean a lot. All right, so we've already kind of touched on the cash flow. That was one of the questions that I had, but in this next one, this is like a final message to the short sellers. So our first interview, we're kind of wrapping things up here. The first interview, you said something at the end that I think a lot of people remembered. You said it's not a good idea to bet against movie theaters. I definitely don't think it's a good idea to bet against AMC, and I'd like to think it's not a good idea to bet against Adam Aron. And that rang true with a lot of people, and I think it came pretty well to fruition. So if you could revisit that question, right, a message to pass along to short sellers, what would you have to say to them right now as they continue to hold a pretty heavy short interest stake, according to what's reported to the exchange data, right, in the company? What would you say to them now at this point?
It's an interesting question. The right answer to your question is that my job is not to run the stock. My job is to run the company. My job is to create and build and increase value for you, the owners of my company, for the long haul.
So
that's
true.
the right answer. And that's my answer.
Why are you getting this interview?
And my lawyers are probably going to wish that I stopped there. But I'm going to tell you something else. This is the 5th company that I've run since 1993. All the 4 that I ran before this were all successes. I think you have to look at AMC right now, having moved ourselves in a position from being the second biggest movie theater chain in the U.S. when I got here to the biggest in the world. That's got to be good. Yeah. And the fact that we dodged the bullet of this pandemic, given how awful it was that was thrown against us, that's got to be
Let's
pretty good.
go.
I'd like to think that AMC, when the history books are written, is going to be a very proud chapter in American business, and a very proud chapter by the executives who ran the company. It just really annoys me to no end that people bet against us. And I spend every waking moment
That's my guy.
trying to make AMC a stronger company, so the people who bet with us are the ones who succeed.
That's a beautiful way to wrap that up. Awesome. Well, Adam, we've taken up a pretty good chunk of your time. I appreciate you answering some hard questions because, as you already know, you read through Twitter, you read through Reddit, you pay attention to a lot of this stuff. There was a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and hopefully this helped answer some questions. I know that it helped clear up some of the opinions that I had about the recent things that have happened with AMC. Are there any last comments, concerns, questions that you have that you'd like to say before we end this live stream?
Yeah. In Adam Aron, you get what you see. I'm really a straight shooter. I call it as I see it. I'm not a spring chicken. I've been at this a long time. I don't mean AMC, but like business career. My word has always been my bond. I've always been a high integrity guy. And
that's what I like
just
to
know,
hear.
just give us the benefit of the doubt once in a while. Everything we're doing is in the best interests of the company and growing the company over the long haul. And especially as you give us the benefit of the doubt and trust us to try to make the best decisions we can. We're human. We might make mistakes here and there, but our track record's been pretty good. I just want to end this interview not only by thanking you for giving me the opportunity to talk to your subscribers.
Let's
on YouTube,
go.
to thank all of your subscribers.
Guess I gotta go see Quiet Place 2.
I hope you buy a lot of movie tickets. I hope you come to our theaters. I hope you enjoy your theaters, because this is
free
your
free
company.
popcorn. Go
We
get your
just
free
set a
popcorn if you're a
program
shareholder.
That's quite revolutionary yesterday, called AMC Investor Connect, where we're going to start communicating with our shareholders directly and make special offers to our shareholders. Come to
There it is.
It's free. It's like, give us your name and email address and click a little box that says you're a shareholder. Like, we're already giving you a free popcorn if you come to a movie this summer. There are going to be more offers coming. One of the things that I've been most impressed by over the last 6 months as this phenomenon has occurred is how passionate many of you are about AMC. Like, we give our hearts and souls for this company. Like, we bleed AMC red. And what I've learned over the last several months is you do too. And I hope your shoulders of this company for years and years and years to come. I hope you're customers of our company for years and years to come. And I know that we're the biggest movie theater chain in the world. I believe that we're the best movie theater chain in the world. I hope that in what we do and how we conduct ourselves and how we continue to build our company and grow value for our shareholders, I hope we make all of you proud. And I'm personally very grateful to you for your support of AMC.
Well, I appreciate that, Adam, and the apes. I think what's really incredible about this is the culture behind why everybody has from what I've read, from my understanding, is it's all about the stories, the personal stories. And I think this big connection that's been drawn between AMC stock and what's drawn everybody together, the same sort of mentality is the why, right? So they all have their own stories they want heard. They want to feel like they matter. They want to feel like these short sellers who have bet against this stock and bet against the retail investor for years and years and decades was wrong this whole time. And AMC kind of stands for that same sort of thing. It's that freaking.
And my first date at AMC.
I have a million memories, great memories. I had my first kiss. I remember saying that in the first interview at an AMC movie theater. And it's just, it's the same sort of mentality, right? It's all about the memories you make, the people that you grow connections with in both of these scenarios. And I think that's ultimately what gravitated so many people to AMC stock for the short term. And I think that is obviously going to transition to the long term.
That's the AMC Godfather.
Thank you so much, Adam, again, for coming onto this live stream. It does mean a lot to me. Thank you to everybody who watched this. On the way out, drop a like if you'd like to. If not, I'm chilling. Appreciate your time. You have a great rest of your night.
All right.
Thank you, Trey.
So what do you think, to wrap up real quick, what did you take away? What are your big takeaways from that?
To the moon tomorrow.
Yeah.
No, only 501 million shares. There's none out the country that they didn't report.
Well, 27 million.
But that's part of the 501 million.
Right. So for me, the big takeaways are they're done with all dilution. There's no more dilution on the table anymore. The fact that they're out of their 43 million is amazing, right, and a strong buy indicator for me. I think that the market's going to react very strongly to that because the biggest thing everyone's seeing is, like, first of all, Fudrick comes in and gobbles up 8.5 million.
Yeah. And
then today, I mean, they do this 11.5 million, and that's their 20. So they were really out of their 43 already. This was the 20 that was available
to the management
for the executives or the management, right? So I think the market's going to react incredibly strongly to that news. So yeah, I mean, are we still in after hours or? Oh yeah, we're still in after hours. Can you just pull up Webull real quick and just take a look where we're at the moment? Go ahead and refresh that chart. Let's just see quickly where we're at. I just want to give you guys an update to see if anyone's reacted at all. Where are we in the after hours?
48.69.
Okay. All right, so not yet. 48.69. I don't really count after hours anyways, unless it's like a big run up and a gap up. But I expect the market to respond very well to that part of the messaging, that they're out. And hearing that the 11.5, but really the 20 that went to management had already been earmarked for them. So yes, it was dilutionary, but it wasn't exactly what you were thinking. You thought that they diluted 20 million out of their 43 million just in the last couple days. So this is good news. I think it's bullish news. Any other takeaways?
I mean, I'm ready.
Yeah, just hold strong, guys. Don't let them scare you out. These hedgies trying to scare all of us out. Don't panic sell. You're going to regret it. If we hold for each other, really we can name our price. So, I haven't been holding since, I don't know. I mean, I've been in at 12 in January. I've been in at 8, 5, something. I bought today. So I've been in at numerous price targets, and I didn't buy at all those prices to sell for $50. I'm holding. Let's push to 100 tomorrow, and Let's hit some all-time highs and let's go from there. All right, apes. Like, subscribe, help us out. If you want to, if you like the channel, want to help out a fellow ape, if you don't have a Webull account already, go ahead and use the link below to sign up for 2 free stocks from Webull. You can win a Tesla Model 3. That sounds pretty cool. And we'll see you in the next one.
See you soon, guys.
Thanks.
Later.